Hey guys, welcome back to part two of our nonfiction book study on beach art. Last time we read in this amazing book, we only got to page 9. We're going to finish it today, but just an incredible nonfiction story. We know nonfiction is true, of course. We've got this lifelike picture on the front cover, and as we saw before, the author was very generous with the lifelike pictures, and we're going to get right into it. A few quick notes. Want to remind you when we read a nonfiction, we want to always be thinking about the who, the what, the where, sometimes how. Why did the author write this story? So be thinking about that as we continue on. Again, this is a series book, meaning there's going to be other books written about all about what? Well, in this case, it's all about beach art. And that is actually what series means. There's going to be a number of these books. We did learn right off the bat who it was. Well, first, quickly, the author did organize the information like most texts, the table of contents. He listed table of contents. He listed what is going to be covered in this book, and we did that last time. We have sand art all the way down to the shape of the sculpture. Oh, and actually the final touches, that's the worst part of the book, and I'm going to tell you why. But actually there's a happy note, so we'll see. So moving right along, the story did open up, the book opened up with sand art because we all have been, or most of us have enjoyed creating sand art at some time, but certainly not like this. Just beautiful sand art that this gentleman, who the book is about, has been creating with nothing more than his hand, sand, and water, and a few tools. One of the things I want to point out very quickly, his name is Carl, and I'm going to show you this because often when they do something in parentheses like this, the author is wanting you to have a correct pronunciation of his name, and so it's Carl Jura. Carl Jura. Now, that's very important because it's often we mispronounce people's names if we're not familiar with them. Also, I want to make note of these sidebars that the author gives us. It highlights the information in the text, and again, we've read that, but just beautiful. Look at this. Greater than lifelike pictures, right? Just amazing, amazing detail that he has taken pictures for. This was an important page. It reminded us that Carl would often have to put some of his sand in forms, sometimes in the shape of circles, other shapes, just to compact his sand so that he's able to take it to his art destination, and be able to do these bigger than life artworks for us. This next page I thought was fascinating, and I think you did too. All sand is not the same, we learned. Some sand is heavier, some sand is lighter, and for different parts of his sculptures, he needed to decide which sand would hold its shape and form better. And this, I believe, is where we left off, yes. And if you notice, the title of this page is The Idea. And you can actually see the face with these hands around it. And just amazing. Look at the likeness of the fingernail and the hands. And again, made out of sand. Just remarkable. I'm going to let you read the side note first. I'm going to bring it up real quickly. And it says, I think you can read it. Carl used glacial sand to make this sculpture called handiwork. Handiwork, can you see that? Oops, there it is. I'm sorry. Glacial sand, and again, all sand is not the same. All right, let's go ahead and read it. This is called The Idea. This is very important. Listen as I read, and I want to remind you too, you are working on comprehension as well as fluency. So please don't just let me read. As I read, you read right along with me, and that will help build your fluency as well. Sometimes Carl has an idea for a sculpture before he gets to the beach, but most of the time the idea comes to him right on the sand. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. And would you look at this? Amazing, just beautiful, beautiful artwork. Okay, I'm going to get this. And again, look at that picture. Wow. I'm sure you already know what it is, but let's read about it together, shall we? At one contest, Carl started shoveling sand into a pile. The shape of the pile reminded him of a shell, so he decided to make a giant shell with a crab crawling out of it. Amazing. Look at that picture. Amazing. Thinking about the sculpture. Let me get this where you can see it. Once Carl has an idea, he stops for a minute. He imagines how his idea will work. Remember, he has types of sand, and he also has forms of sand to decide how large or how wide or how big the sculpture will actually be and what he's going to need to put it together. I'm going to try to sit closer. There he is. Again, remember, it talks often about how he just uses his hand and a few tools to create this. Let's look at this text. I'm going to get it right there for you. For example, if he wants to make an alien, Carl thinks about how it will look. How big will the head be? Where will the shoulders begin? Where will the legs go? Sometimes Carl makes lines in the pile to show where different parts will go. Okay. And then let's read on. The shape of the sculpture. I think you can see that very well. When Carl's ready to carve, he starts at the top of the pile. He stands on a lower part of the pile and uses a shovel to cut away sand. He shovels until he gets the shape he wants. And often with artistry, they're very, very particular. Of course, that's what makes them such a good artist. They know what they want to create. Look at him examining what it is that he's creating. Oh my word. Would you look at that? Unbelievable. Look at the detail. Oh, I just love these pictures. I love these books. Tricky carving. Let's get that close so you read right along with me. It's tricky to carve sand, so Carl has to think ahead. What sand is heavy? So Carl must be very careful. If he makes the top shape too big, it might fall down later. When Carl made a giant alien, its head weighed 1 ton, about 2,000 pounds or 900 kilograms. Carl had to make sure the rest of the sculpture could hold it up. So very, very important. Oh my goodness, he's not just an artist. He has to really think about how this is constructed and the safety of himself and those who are enjoying his artwork. Amazing. Absolutely beautiful. I love how the author does this. Look for this. Look at this. He actually gives us a diagram so that we can really understand if a man is 6 feet tall. Look at this. Twice the size is the sculpture. And notice it says, how tall was it? Most people are less than half as tall as the sculpture. Can you believe that? So you can imagine just how, again, it's not just about sand art, it's about safety, isn't it? How can he keep everybody safe while they're enjoying his artwork? Just amazing. All right, now let's read together. I'm going to get this right in the center. Hopefully you see this. Careful cutting. Carl must also be careful when he carves a hole or cuts into a sculpture. Once he cut a huge sculpture in half. The sculpture was 12 feet tall and weighed more than 6 tons. It would be dangerous if the sculpture fell, so Carl was very cautious. Carl was scared as he cut away the last bit of sand. It was all that held the two halves together, but the sculpture did not fall, and Carl won the sand sculpture contest. Oh my goodness, we can see why. Would you look at the detail of that? The folds and the face. Oh my goodness. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, and this is entitled adding details. And again, he gives us this picture, and let's read it together. Can you see it? Carl carves the final details into a huge sculpture. Look at that. Look at the fingers, the fingernail and all the marks. Just, oh my goodness, such care to every detail. Okay, and let's read together, shall we? Remember, you're reading along with me, practicing your fluency. Don't just let me read for you. After Carl carves out the big shapes, he adds details. He uses a small shovel called a trowel, and also a knife or his hands. The details might be the stripes on a tiger or the feathers on a bird. When he's in a contest, Carl has about 3 days to make a sculpture. He can't focus too long on details or he'll run out of time. How about that? Surely doesn't look like he can't focus on details. Can you imagine how gifted he is? That he's able to do this type of thing in 3 days. I love it. And this page, my friends, is what I was talking about. This is my page that I'm not so fond of. Notice it says final touches. When the sculpture is done, do you see that? Carl uses his hands to smooth away any marks made by tools. Then he sprays the sand with a watery glue. The glue protects the sculpture from the wind. Carl's beach art doesn't last long after a contest. A bulldozer knocks down the sculptures. Otherwise, these giant piles of sand could fall over on someone. So you can see why this was not my favorite page. But do you know what I love about these books? The book captured all those beautiful artworks for us. And so we get to visit these places and visit these pictures, even though they've been knocked down. We get to continue to enjoy them. I love that. All right, let's take a look at these nonfiction things that we think about when we read stories, books such as this. So, for instance, are we ready? Who? Well, the who was given to us right away, wasn't it? It was this gentleman by the name of Carl. And again, I wanted to alert you to the fact that often they give us the pronunciation very carefully so that we're able to say his name correctly. I don't think we're going to need the book a lot for some of the answers to our questions because it was so interesting, but let's see. Okay, the what. What was it that he did? If you can't answer that question, I'm not thinking you are really reading, of course. The what is beach art? That's exactly right. What did he do? He created amazing beach art, and that is just spectacular. Where? Well, where was all over on many different beaches. And one of the things that was so amazing about it is that he was able to go to these places and create this incredible beach art for so many to enjoy. And of course, we didn't put up the how, but this book definitely wants us, or definitely told us how he was able to create these beautiful beach art. We know that, I know for me, I didn't realize that sand was so different. I thought all sand was the same, but we clearly read that sand is very different. We read about glacial sand. We read about some sand being heavier and some sand obviously being lighter, and certain areas of his beach art required different types of sand, and we can see that now, can't we? We also understand that, well, let's just turn to that. He would actually have to create forms of his sand in order to transport the sand easier to his different destinations of his artwork. So he had these forms made, and in this were the various types of sand. Just really fun. I thought this was a fun book to read about. Well, that takes us to our last question. Why did the author write this for us? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I know I don't always get to go out to the beach, and I don't always travel to places that have such cool art. But thanks to this author, they took pictures of us and told us all about who Carl was, a special artist, and took us to this place where we got to see and witness the beauty of his artwork. And that's what's so fun. That's why this series is going to be fun. We're going to get to go all over the world, and through these beautiful pictures and books, we get to actually travel to places that we may never have gotten to see. So I'm glad you were able to join me. I hope you enjoyed the beach art as much as I did, and I'll see you next time for our next book study.